Before we proceed to the video, for more LEED AP O+M study material, you can contact me on my email and on my LinkedIn as usual. Hello and welcome to Introduction to LEED Operations and Maintenance V4. If you haven't seen the video for LEED Introduction APBD plus C, I would highly recommend that you watch it first because the basics of LEED, like the purpose of LEED, their business case, how it all started, when it all started, what does it mean, the impact categories, and the last but not the least, the triple bottom lines, it all remains constant. I'm not going to be discussing it here, but I'm going to be providing a link in the video description so that you can watch that video as well. So the main thing that is different from BD plus C in this O plus M, these are the things that I'll be discussing in this video, which are LEED rating systems. There are some difference in adaptations. In fact, there are less adaptations in O plus M, and the credit categories are also less. The integrative process is not there. The certification levels, since we are discussing the credit categories and their points, so it would be important. MPR, almost similar. The scorecard is different because it is based on the categories and their descriptions. The performance period, perhaps the most important thing to understand in LEED O plus M and in this video, is the performance period and the certification program and the work plan, which has less number of steps as compared to BD plus C. In general, there is not completely, but a different approach in terms of fulfilling the intent of the same LEED purposes, because in this case, the operation and maintenance, you do not have flexibilities, few flexibilities which you had in BD plus C. Like you cannot select the location anymore because the building is existing, and also there are some things that you cannot reverse, or like the HVAC system is already installed, so either the upgrade might cost you too much, so you have to find smart ways in order to find a solution and also comply with all these requirements of LEED. So we will go through one by one in different slides, and I'll be comparing it to BD plus C. There would be two reasons. First, because whoever is trying to attempt O plus M, for sure he would go through Green Associate, which is the subset of BD plus C, and we will see it once we go on that how they are relatable as well. So we know about the rating systems. We have a voluntary consensus-driven program to implement and measure green building, including design, construction, operations, and maintenance. We have 5 rating systems: BD plus C, ID plus C, that is interior design plus construction. We have O plus M, operations and maintenance. LEED for homes is different. And then we have LEED for neighborhood development. So as I said, that I'd be comparing a little with the BD plus C because the prerequisite to this course is the Green Associate, which is the subset of BD plus C. So the first comparison would be the adaptations. You can see that new construction and major renovation is being replaced by existing buildings, making perfect sense, and core and shell has been completely omitted, because core and shell means that somebody has to come, rent, or lease the area, whereas operation and maintenance is for the existing running facility, so core and shell is omitted. There is one small change, that healthcare is considered as existing buildings. Healthcare is not an adaptation in O plus M. If you ask me, to be honest, why they have omitted, I do not have any answer. I could not find any logic specifically, but the reason might be that is what I could interpret. That in operation and maintenance, there are not many special requirements for healthcare, which there were in BD plus C too much. They had special requirements for cadmium, copper, and other. If you have gone through BD plus C course, you would have seen that so many credits were specifically for healthcare. So in operations and maintenance, so I think it was not required. That's why they put also the healthcare in the category of or adaptation of existing buildings. So we have in total for LEED operation and maintenance only 6 adaptations. So for the adaptations, the existing buildings, which are basically all the buildings except the 5 below. It should not be a school, not be a retail, data center, warehouse, and hospitality buildings. So that's the reason healthcare is considered an existing building. The school's learning spaces, kindergarten to 12th grade, and optional for higher education, like considering any admin building, retail, sale of consumer products. We know what it is. Data centers with a requirement of more than 60% gross floor area for data center, and for warehouse to store goods, products, raw materials. Hospitality includes all the short-term lodging, inns, hotels, and motels. The rating system selection is based on the previous rule, 60-40. Less than 40 should not be used. More than 60 should be used. Between 40 to 60, it's upon the project team. For the LEED credit categories, the structure is similar. We have prerequisite for the category, then we have credits to earn the points. The maximum number of points in LEED AP O+M is also 110. The intent, adaptation, requirement, options with the points. The relationship between the options could be or and. You can go for either one of the options or both the options. The documentation, there are certain standards, the formulas. We'll be discussing it one by one. The thing I wanted to mention here is, first of all, the credit categories is one less. There's no integrated process here. Secondly, we have seen the project types are less. There are only 6, or adaptations, which they call. And also, the point distribution is even. In the details or in the credits of each credit category, there are some special points, but it's very less. Unlike BD plus C, where if you have seen in the Green Associate, there were many special credits for schools and healthcare adaptation, but in this case, it's more or less applied to all adaptations. A bird eye view to all credit categories in LEED AP operation and maintenance. First one being location and transportation, which is focusing on the transportation patterns of the building occupants, and how they are going to and from the building. And the purpose is to find a way in order to reduce the pollution from these transportation sources. And the sustainable sites, which is to minimize the impact on ecosystem and enhance and preserve biodiversity. Water efficiency is always talking about being efficient in use of water, not only in indoors but also outdoors. The energy in atmosphere, which is in terms of the number of points, the biggest category, and it focuses on smart use of energy, better energy performance, efficient, and the environmental protection. When you use less energy, it will require less energy to be produced, and the way energy produced pollutes the environment. So using less energy equals environment protection. The materials and resources, which is to reduce the environmental impact of building during its operation, in a sense that whatever you buy and whatever you use in terms of materials, it has to be something, or it has to be coming from a company or a product that is using the sources efficiently. And you have to uh, manage your waste as well. So it's not only what you are purchasing. The cycle is that you purchase, you use, and then you throw. So you have to be smart in purchasing the materials. They are to be sustainable, and also you have to be smart in your waste management. The indoor environmental quality is always about the comfort of the building occupants. So it promotes better indoor air quality, acoustics, and daylights. The innovation and regional priority. If you are coming up with any sort of new strategy that is fulfilling the requirement of LEED, but it's not mentioned in LEED O+M, you might get innovation credit, but you have to fulfill the same criteria, giving the proper intent, requirement, and documentation. And regional priority is usually bonus points, 4 points, and it is based on where you are located. The certification levels, we have seen these LEED O+M points chart in the credit categories, and this, after summing up all, it will be 110 points, out of which if you get 40 to 49, you'll be certified. Your building will be certified actually. And if you have 50 to 59 points, the building will be silver certified. 60 to 79 will earn a gold, and 80 plus would be platinum certified building, and above does not apply for LEED homes, similar to what we saw in the BD plus C. LEED MPR, which is minimum program requirements, perhaps the first thing that you need to check when you decide to get your project or your building LEED certified, that either you comply with MPR or not. So three steps or three requirements: must be in a permanent location on existing land, which takes out any mobile homes or trailers out of the equation. MPR2 must use reasonable LEED boundaries with gross floor area of more than 2%. Everything should be defined in terms of boundaries, and gross floor area is the area inside the building envelope without the roof. So this is how you calculate, and this GFA should be minimum 1000 square feet in terms of operations and maintenance. The third requirement is that it must comply with project size requirements, which is similar to BD plus C. It was also 100 square feet. In terms of ID plus C, it's less, it's 250 square feet. So this is the first step or the first thing that you're going to think about when you want your project or your building to be LEED certified. You will see whether it complies with these three minimum program requirements or not. LEED AP O+M Scorecard, that puts all the credit categories and their respective credit on one piece of paper. And the purpose is to identify that which credits you will be trying to attempt. And if you recall the structure of the credit categories, you remember there were mandatory prerequisites and there were optional credits. So the mandatory prerequisites are already uh, mentioned here with this small letter Y, which means yes, you have to go for this. If you do not follow or if you do not fulfill the intent and requirement of these prerequisites, you will not be able to uh, get your project or your building LEED certified. So these are required as it is mentioned, and the others are optional. And then in order to find out whether you will apply or you will not apply. So there is a yes, no, and maybe in between. So some credits you would be sure about that I'll be attempting. You can say yes. Some you will be sure about that you will be not attempting. You will say no. And some maybe depending on the situation. So this is the scorecard. It actually summarizes for you and give you targets that in which credit category, which credits you are targeting and which one you are leaving behind. The performance period is perhaps the most important thing when it comes to LEED operation and maintenance, because this is what you will be submitting to the GBCI. This is where you are going to measure your sustainable operations. It is based on the successful outcomes during this period that you will be submitting to GBCI. And this period should be continuous. Anything less than 1 week, any gap less than 1 week will not be considered, but any period longer than 1 week will be considered as a gap. So whatever you have applied as sustainable operations or sustainable practices, it should be continuous, and you have to define the period of this operation. It must be minimum 3 months and maximum 24 months. So your performance period could be 3 months, and from 3 to 24 months, and in between you cannot have any gaps longer than 1 week. And perhaps the most important in the performance period point is that all the performance periods should overlap, must overlap, and conclude within 30 days to each other. If you see the table below, you can see different credits on the left, where we have water efficiency credit, outdoor water use. We have sustainable site credit, rainwater management. You have a start date, and then you have an end date. The end date is the one that we will be focusing on, because all the performance period, either it is 3 months, either it could be 1 year period or 2 year or somewhere in between, 15 months, 16 months, the end date should be within 60 days to each other. If you see here, all of the credits, they are ending in April 2015. It could be April 1, 2022. As far as it's between April 1 and 30th, this will be acceptable by GBCI. Now, the certification application to be submitted within 60 days at the end of the performance period. In the below example, or in the below chart, you can see the last date of the performance period is April 26, 2015. So 60 days from April 27th will be acceptable in terms of the certification application. It has to be submitted within 60 days after the last performance period. So two things to consider. First of all the performance periods should be ending in between 30 days to each other, and the last day of the last performance period, or the one that is ending last, should be the certification application should be submitted from 60 days from the last one. So for LEED certification program, a small reminder, since it's certification, it is for buildings. So you've got two possibilities. Either you are certifying it for the first time, which is the first possibility, first time application. The second is recertification. If your building is already LEED O+M certified under any category, it could be silver certified, platinum, or gold, the application or the previous certification is valid for 5 years. You have to certify once every 5 years of initial certification. And the flexibility is that if you want, it's eligible as often as every 12 months. So you have the flexibility of recertifying from 1 to 5 years, anywhere in between. And after 5 years, the previous certification is going to expire. Now, the second is LEED volume and campus program. We know that in certain cases, when you have multiple similar buildings, considered as any restaurant, if they have similar buildings and similar design, which they want to implement in different locations, they can streamline the prototype, and it will be the certification of that design, and they can implement it anywhere. The LEED campus program, multiple projects on shared or site controlled by single entity on owner. This is one of the category. And then you have two approaches, group approach or campus approach, in which in the group approach you have multiple buildings but one certification. In campus approach, you have multiple buildings serving different purposes, and each building is going to earn a separate certification for itself. So a little change from LEED AP BD plus C work plan. There were 11 steps back there. USCBC recommend 8 steps here, which are simple: appropriate LEED rating system adaptation selection. We have seen 40 to 60 rule. We can apply and select the rating system. Then check MPR, define LEED project scope, whether you will go for campus or volume or it's a single building. Develop LEED scorecard, which credits you want to apply, which you will not, which you will think about later on. Assign roles and responsibilities. Very important. You should have people assigned to what they will be accountable for, or what they will be doing or performing. In case of the performance periods, you should have different teams working on different categories. Somebody, for example, on water efficiency, and the other one on energy, and they should be working independently based on their performance periods. So then you have to determine the performance periods, and you have to overlap all of them, that they are in a way that they end in 30 days to each other. Develop consistent documentation. By consistency, they mean that if you are applying any FTEs, full-time equivalents, or any use of water, it should be consistent in all the documents. The number of people should remain the same when it comes to the interior air quality or any other calculations for fresh air. It should be consistent all over. And then perform quality assurance review internally and submit for certification. So these are the 8 steps for LEED operations and maintenance, which they call LEED O+M work plan. So this concludes the introduction of LEED AP O+M and the purposes of LEED and their triple bottom line and the business case, etc. As I discussed earlier in the first slide, you can watch the other video. I'll provide the description there. So we will continue with location and transportation. Thank you very much for your attention.